Hi everyone, and welcome back to Effective Leadership Strategies in the Workplace. So this week we're going to focus on process versus product and how that actually applies to effective leadership strategies. So process versus product is it's kind of a term that I learned way back when I was in school working on my early education degree. Basically, the general frame of thought was that we really want to encourage the process of learning for children because you begin to understand all of those dynamics in determining how a child gets from point A to point Z. Whereas the product is the type of instruction that I received when I was a little girl from my teachers, where every child's piece of art or every child's finished product looked the same. The focus was all about the end result versus the process that we took to get to that result. And so I started thinking, how does this concept, how does this train of thought impact how a person leads in the workplace? And so I want to talk a little bit about the differences and kind of compare process versus product as adult leaders, how we can use process or product to improve our workplace strategies. So in product, a few key points. Product is all about the end result versus process, which is about the evolution steps, the steps that we take to get to that product. Product tends to be short term. We're only focused on the short term, whereas process is about evolution. It's about long term. It's about the journey. With product, we follow firm deadlines. It is due on this date. That's a firm deadline. With process, it's about following consistent guidelines, consistent systems, which we've talked about before, consistent systems to get to the product. When I think about leaders that I want to emulate or people that I thought were really effective leaders, they didn't just come into the business as a great leader. That's the product, right? It has resulted in them being a great leader. What happened along the way, though, was years and years of training, of mentoring, of mentorship, of allyship, of professional development, of succession planning, of education. All of those things were a part of these leaders' process to becoming an effective leader. So the product is great because this is what we see forward facing when we're looking at this person who's a leader. And remember, leadership is a behavior. It's not just a title. It is a set of behaviors. So when we think about who this person is today as a leader and why they're successful and why they're effective, we really need to take a moment to think about the process that got them to that particular place. If you're taking a trip, say you're going to Hawaii and you're taking a trip to Hawaii. Well, Hawaii is the product. That's the end result. That's where we all want to get. But you have to, make a reservation. You have to schedule if you have a pet sitter. You have to work out all of the details, the process before you get to the product, the end result. So the process is really about the journey. And so you can see where I'm going here. When you're a leader and when you're an effective leader, it really is about the journey that gets you to a place of effective leadership. As you are leading others, think about, when people are coming in to get instruction from you and leadership and mentorship and guidance from you, you're not just expecting someone to come in already packaged. The process is the onboarding that takes place. It's the systems and the guidelines that you're creating and you're massaging and you're enriching. It's the resources and the continued mentorship that you're providing for this particular person on your team who maybe you're molding into a leader. That's a part of the process. And then I started thinking about this theorist named Lev Vygotsky, who really coined the term and the phrase scaffolding. Because a part of that process is scaffolding learning for your team so that they can build on each of those concepts to get them to the next state. I always thought, when I'm taking on a new project or something and I haven't maybe had a whole lot of leadership or guidance or instruction for how to get there, I'd think, how am I going to get to point Z? Well, with scaffolded learning, what happens is you start at step A, okay? And then you build on that. Once you've mastered that concept, you've mastered that kind of knowledge base, then you go to step B. So you're consistently building layer upon layer upon layer. So at the end, you don't just have this surface understanding, which is Z. You have this whole kind of catalog, this whole library of learning, this whole backlog of content and resources and support that have allowed you to really build a strong foundation to get to this place. And then as the end product goal and expectation changes, you still have all of this deep knowledge that you've built on. You've gotten stronger and stronger and stronger and accumulated all of this knowledge to get to this endpoint. So even if the endpoint changes, you've still got this great foundation of learning to get to that place. Remember, even if the situation changes, even if the leader were to leave or were to assume another assignment, if you have systems in place based on that scaffolded learning and based on the process that it takes place, then someone will be able to follow that system because they built on that knowledge all along. They have strengthened all of the skills and they've scaffolded that learning for all of those skills so they're ready to assume responsibility when change happens. And if there's one thing I can guarantee, it's that change is going to happen. So as an effective leader, I'm going to ask that you really focus on the process of building your team, not just the product, because it's that process that builds new knowledge, right? And creates a tremendous sense and allows for a tremendous sense of diversity of thought, which leads to better collaboration, which leads to employee and team engagement, which leads to retention, which leads to organizational sustainability. So I know that process versus product is really a term and a process that we hear about in early childhood education, but as adults, it can absolutely be applied to building effective leadership strategies in the workplace. We want to focus on the process. We want to understand how people have learned. We want to create systems, provide resources and support so we're focused on and can pay attention to that diversity of thought, that diversity, that opportunity for critique, that opportunity for collaboration. And that happens when you allow people to use their own brain processes, their own cognitive processes to form new knowledge based on old knowledge. That's why the process is so important. So as you're onboarding somebody new, don't assume that they're at Z. You take conscious efforts, integrate conscious methods and systems so that you're going through and you're understanding where they are along that process. Are they at step H and do you need to build more? Do you need to go back to step A because you remember you want alignment with your organization, alignment with your mission, alignment with the vision of the organization? Do you need to start at step A, understand where they're starting, meet them where they are, and then build on those skills so that they can get to step Z? The other thing is you create independent thinkers. So people, as they start to form new knowledge based on what resources and materials you've given them, they're forming new knowledge to build on old information. Then they become more competitive, more critical, more diverse thinkers. And that's going to benefit your team dynamic in the long run. Provide them with successful onboarding, provide them with a lot of feedback, a lot of mentorship, a lot of guidance, a lot of collaboration, help them figure things out along the way. And you may not get there in the same way, but you will get to the same product at the end of the day. So thank you so much for joining me for Effective Leadership Strategies in the Workplace. We talked about process versus product, the benefit of each, the difference between the two, and we know we really want to focus on the process so that we can be better leaders for our team and more effective leaders in our workplace. Thanks so much. See you next time.